plenty to talk about and plenty to do. So get the gossip, get the scoop, and tune right into the editorial to keep you in the loop. It's the editorial, a Wichita Baby podcast.
Welcome to the latest edition of the editorial. Today, I am very honored to be joined by the owners of Hopping Gnome Brewery. We have Tori and Stacy Ward-Latin. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Of course. No. Hey, Stacy, you reached out to me, so I appreciate that because I am not the best at like one, salesmanship, two, networking, and three, just like generally reaching out to people. I'm pretty lazy at that, you know. But do you guys want to start by giving a quick, brief intros of yourself?
Yeah.
Go right ahead. Me?
Oh,
Yeah.
You go first.
Tori Latin. I don't know. Head brewer, co-owner of Hopping Gnome Brewing. Moved to Wichita in 2007. So I feel like this is home. I've lived here pretty much most of my life now. So, that's pretty much it. I don't know.
Where'd you come from? Where'd you arrive from?
So originally I'm from Lyons, which is about an hour and a half northwest of here.
Lifelong Kansan?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then went to Fort Hays State out in Hays, Kansas, and that's where Stacy and I met in college.
Yeah. I'm Stacy Ward-Latin and co-owner Hopping Gnome Brewing. And so, Tori said he's head brewer and focuses on the making the beer, and I do everything else, all the marketing and
You bring the people in.
yeah, social media, and up until recently did it all. Now we have some help with that, which is great. So yeah, I'm from Valley Center, so grew up here, grew up in Wichita, and went away to school and didn't want to come back to Wichita really, but
A lot of people don't when they leave, but I get it.
but it worked out.
So you guys brought some beers, I see.
Yes, we did.
Should we go ahead and just crack these open?
Yeah,
I mean, we might
you can
as
do
well.
the honors. So I know you're a sour guy.
Yep.
So we brought our HBIC sour, which is actually our top selling beer. Even though everyone knows like sours don't really taste like beer.
Yeah.
They are beer, but they don't. So it kind of it reaches a wider audience. That's why it's the top seller. So we rotate flavors seasonally, and it's guava mango right now. And we brought our salty gnome goza. I don't know if you've had that. A goza style is a salty sour.
Actually, I wrote that in my notes. I had to take pictures. I mean, obviously, everywhere I go, I take pictures of what I'm doing. And I was going to ask you, how do you pronounce it? Is it goza? You said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Goza. Yep.
Those were the two I had written down that I had last time that I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
So
good,
good.
perfect. And that flavor rotates as well, and that's watermelon at the moment. And then we brought our hard seltzer, which we don't have to, if you're not a hard seltzer person, we just like, if you know anybody that can't drink beer or doesn't like beer, we're just always promoting that we make a hard seltzer, and it's pineapple flavored.
I mean, I'll drink whatever's put in front of my face most of the time. So,
We'll open one up.
so is a seltzer, is it not like a beer category, or is it like separate?
I mean, it's kind of separate. It's still fermented out with corn sugar and yeast and creates the alcohol. We just flavor it with different fruits. It's something we've been doing for a little over a year now.
We're having some problems opening up the beers.
We're trying to
There we go.
hear the noise.
And then you got to get it up next to the mic. So
Yeah, there we go.
That's a good sound.
Perfect.
We've done this before.
So take me back. So how did Hopping Gnome start? Like, where did that all originate?
Yeah, so I was working at an engineering consultant firm in Wichita. So I graduated Fort Hays, and part of the internship was I moved to Wichita and worked for MKEC and started there in 2007 as an intern, and then got hired on. And it was a couple years later, a guy that I worked under brought in homebrew. And he was like, hey, I want you to try this beer that I made. And I was like, oh, you made beer? That's awesome. And it was really good stuff. And at that time, we had just moved into our house, and I didn't have any hobbies really. And I was like, well, that seems like a fun hobby, like beer,
And how long ago was this?
So this was 2010 when I first started
Okay.
home brewing. So yeah, started home brewing and just kind of became a hobby, then an obsession, and then eventually a job and a business. But yeah, so started in 2010, and about 2012, I felt pretty confident about what I was doing. Got a lot of good reviews from friends and family, and but I mean, you know, they'll tell you it's the best thing ever, you know. But I wanted some non-biased opinions. Excuse me. So I entered some beer into a homebrew competition in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so we drove the beer down there and delivered it, and we watched the results on Twitter. You know, this is 2012 when Twitter was just coming out and getting big, and ended up winning a gold medal, and for our ESB, which we have on tap all the time, our Earl of ESB is what we eventually called it. And with that gold medal, it qualified it for a national competition. So they had 8 regional competitions. All the gold medals from there went to Michigan and competed against each other for national medals. And so the thing with that is, being a home brewer, you only make like 5-10 gallons. Well, by the time the Michigan one came around, I had to rebrew that beer again. And so it's like, okay, can I duplicate this?
Yeah.
Can I, how good are my notes? How decent of a brewer am I? And so brewed it again, was super happy with it. We shipped it to Michigan, which, wasn't a good idea.
You want to drive it up there?
Yeah. I wish we could have, but, so it was like double wrapped in Ziploc bags and way too much, foam to protect it. Made it up there without breaking, which was great. And then we watched for the results and ended up getting a gold medal for the national competition.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it placed second overall out of all the beers entered. So all those gold medal beers from around the country were there, and ours placed second overall.
This is all home brewers.
Yeah, all home
That's
brewers.
impressive.
And so it was like, oh, okay. And so we were super excited about it. And then I just kind of made an offhand joke to Stacy, like, oh, maybe we should start a brewery. And she goes, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh,
I was actually kind of kidding.
yeah. But
well, we were, so also in 2012, we went on like a trip to Colorado. So of course, lots of great breweries in Colorado. And we were visiting the bigger ones and the smaller ones. We were in the Boulder, Fort Collins area. And we enjoyed going to these small kind of cozy tap rooms. I describe it as like a coffee shop, but with beer. And it was just beer. And some of them had food trucks out front, which that was like something we'd never really seen before. We'd heard about food trucks, but we didn't really have a lot of that going on here at the time. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And then, of course, there were college students doing homework. There were people playing board games, and then just people at the bar just talking about beer with the bartender. And we were like, this is a really cool vibe. At the time, we only had 2 breweries in Wichita, and which are both great, but brew pubs, food, full bar, just a little bit different vibe. And so when he mentioned that, he was like, I really like this. And we were having that conversation at the time of that a lot of young people have in Wichita. This is fun. Do we want to like move? Do we want to stay in Wichita? And he was like, I don't know if I want to like work my desk job forever. I really like this brewing thing. Seems to be going well. It's a lot of fun. I like to be active, and it's just different. And I worked in nonprofit management. And so I was like, well, just get a job somewhere like here and we'll move and I can work wherever. And that's when he mentioned, well, I just think Wichita could really use something like this. And that's when we kind of had that moment of like, do we want to stay and like contribute to making Wichita more cool and fun and kind of expanding that idea. And so that's why I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we Googled how to write a business plan, and
yeah, we had a lot of help along the way. But yeah, going back to that, it was like, we looked around and it was, River City Brewing, who's downtown, been there forever, doing great things, awesome food, awesome environment. And then at that time it was Wichita Brewing West. And they're getting close to opening up their east location. And then it was Walnut River out in El Dorado.
Hank is wiser.
And Hank is wiser.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was it in the area. And then we really kind of dived into the numbers and looked at it. East and West Coast was just exploding with craft beer. And Kansas, the Midwest, about 5 years behind.
If that, I mean, it might be
Yeah.
10, 20 sometimes.
Yeah, depending on what it is. So we were kind of looking at it. We're like, any other city in the United States that has this many people in their population has 10, 12 or more breweries. How do we only have 2? And it's like, well, maybe we can get in on the ground floor of this. And that was kind of where we threw the concept out there of a tap room where we don't have a kitchen. We make food, but we're not good enough to mass produce or make that much food for
But we wanted to partner. We liked that food truck idea.
Yeah.
And we started hearing about, I think Fine Stove,
That was really early on. Yeah.
Some of the early, we're like, ooh, we could do something like that. Because we're all about, breweries are all about collaboration, of course, but so are a lot of small businesses in this community. And as we were learning about that, we were like, how can we, kind of leverage that? And they're good at what they do and we do what we do. And it's just a completely different concept.
Yeah.
And it was pretty early to even discuss, I guess, collaborations. You didn't really see a lot of that back in 2012, 13, 14. So
Not as much. I think it was probably there. We didn't have as many breweries. We just didn't have as many. There's always been obviously small businesses in Wichita, but you just didn't have that. It really wasn't until, by the time we opened, it was 2015. And that's when the Wichita flag was really taking off and more like Wichita pride. And we started seeing, more retail and different types of businesses coming in.
A lot more stability in town.
Yeah. And kind of taking that, revitalizing that. That's when we really started seeing the downtown revitalization.
Yep.
Because Old Town was more early 2000s, and then it really just kind of that was it for a long time. So we saw it, and then we saw Delano, and then obviously the NAFSCAR Park area recently. So we just thought, well, that would be an interesting concept. It was hard to sell that idea to banks. We were turned down.
Yeah,
5 or 6 times.
we knew that going in. We did a ton of research, and there's a book out there. It's like, basically planning to start a brewery, and it was like, I think it was like chapter 1 or 2. They're like, you're gonna get denied by banks.
Yeah,
it's like it's just the way that it is. You'll have to find either investors or some other way to fund it. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna be rejected.
So what was the story, I guess, because back then, like you said, there's only a couple breweries around town.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the craft beer scene was not really as in back then. So how did you sell the story?
Yeah. So, we did, like I said, we did a ton of research. We talked to a lot of people. One thing that I did was, we have a distributor, House of Schwan. And so I contacted them and was like, hey, I've got this idea for a microbrewery. We'll do some distribution, but we'll have a small tap room. Can I meet with somebody? Can I get an idea of what I'm walking into or what I don't want to walk into? And so we received a call or an email from House of Schwan, and they were like, yeah, we'd love to set up a meeting. And if you want to bring some of your beer in, we'll try it. And then we'll go around to local bars and restaurants and see if it's worth anything. And I was like, sounds good. So when we did that, and our distributor will always say that. He's like, yeah, the first time I met you, you were wearing slacks.
Yeah, like a tie on.
A tie. I was like trying to be professional.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and he shows up, just in a logo T-shirt from Anheuser-Busch or whatever. And he always says that. But yeah, so we went out and we pitched the beer. We went to the Anchor and saw Shane, met her, went down to the Public and met Brooke, and we went out to met Rob out at Global Liquor and gave him samples and just let me know what you think, and all came back with great reviews, and it was like, okay, well.
And they shared it with their bar managers, and they're like, could you sell this?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh yeah. So that was he was bracing himself for it.
Yeah, just no. And it's like, okay, that's fine. We could rip the Band-Aid off without having to do the business plan and all that stuff. So it was like cautionary, like, let's do this first before we get way too invested in it and then really get our feelings hurt.
So how did the original location come about over at, what's it, 1710 East Douglas?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were looking again, that we knew the downtown was where it's at, and that's where the growth was going to happen, and everything was being revitalized. But there wasn't a lot in like the Old Town area, and I don't think we were really even thinking about Delano at that time.
No,
Much.
not
That was
really.
before Riverfront Stadium and everything. So we just kept coming back to just a little bit east of Old Town, in that area. Just seemed like there was a lot of potential there. And when we saw the spot was available, and it was originally Lancelot tile, and that's why it has the sunflower
Okay.
tile on the
I didn't know that.
outside. It's built in 1930.
Yep.
Had been lots of things over the years. It had been vacant for a while, and it was just perfect for what we needed. I mean, we had to, of course, it had carpet and drop ceilings and everything. Lots of construction had to be done, but to just have a little like 50-person tap room with a bar and a few tables, and then to be able to build out the brew house the way he wanted, it just worked out really well. So, and the donut hole had been there a long time, and then Tanya Soup Kitchen had moved over there recently. So we're like, oh, this is kind of
Was Piata open by then, or were they not open yet?
they were after.
They were after. Yep.
They were after. Robert actually was one of our regulars that would come in and was like, I have this pizza idea. And we actually went to his house, and like he made us the pizza, and he's like, do you think we could do this? It's a very similar like circle
Yeah.
Just
circle
don't go
of
to the
life.
banks.
Yeah.
Circle,
Well,
His is
easier
probably
to,
different.
It's easier
but-
to get funding for restaurants than breweries.
and then
Right.
later we had the partnership where you could order the pizza and they would bring it over and everything, because we were right next door, and it just worked out so well. But yeah, that's how that all came about as well. So that's where that camaraderie and collaboration and everything really came through. So yeah, so we let's see, we didn't get funding by banks at first, and so we ended up working. You want to talk about Skid?
Yeah, so we worked with the SBA, and then they recommended, I guess it's a company of financial sort of institution called SCED, South Central Kansas Economic Development District. And so they were able to lend us the money along with the SBA. The thing with that is they're not a bank, so their interest rates are much higher, but there's funding.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we weighed the options, like, well, either we take on a bunch of investors and we figure it out that way, and then we've got to start a business, and then B, listen to all the other ideas that are coming in from investors. Because, when you put money into something, you have a voice.
Yeah.
So I don't think we could have gotten
Yeah. Which is a
all
great option for a lot,
complete-
we totally, like, that would have been, plan C or whatever, but yeah.
You guys watch Shark Tank?
Yes.
Yeah,
every
I mean,
once
they
in a
always
while,
talk about, sometimes it's not good to take on investors because you have people to answer to, and you
Yeah.
can't run the business the way you want.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then you've always got opinions or ideas, and it's like, we just want to focus on one thing starting off, not 30.
Yeah.
So, which, I mean, getting investors, we're not knocking that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it
that's a
works
great option.
great for
And eventually,
businesses, but
yeah.
but
And eventually we were able to get, we worked with Emprise Bank, and was able to get them, once we kind of opened up the thing and got people to come in and see that, oh, this is a viable business, then they were able to help us
because,
take
I
those
mean,
loans over. So
and that was the thing, in that book that said, you will be denied, banks, by banks. And it was because, especially in the Midwest, there wasn't any numbers to go off of. If you're a restaurant,
no benchmarks.
there's a ton of restaurants, and you can see, what your market share is and all of these things. With a brewery, with a new concept, with a tap room, we don't have food. People couldn't get that concept at the beginning, and we had to add in, well, we'll have food trucks. But it was
and they're
like,
well, you can't count on that. And then it was like, you already, and it's more of an investment than like startup costs. And if you're just opening like a retail location, because you have to have all the brewing equipment, that's where obviously the biggest expense was. And they were just like, it just seems too risky.
Were there other brew pubs like in the state?
Yeah. But most of them have food.
Yeah.
So they have that restaurant aspect to it, where we were just straight 6 taps on the wall and
Because this was 2014 by the time we were really getting going. And it was a new concept.
Yeah.
And then 2015, you guys opened.
2015.
With the name Hopping Gnome Brewing.
Yes. Yep.
And where'd that name come from?
So yeah, that's I will say that, you get one light bulb moment in your life, and that was mine. So we had our business plan basically finished. We had some names picked out, and the first thing we did when we were looking for names was we hopped on the United States Patent and Trade Office website, because you don't want to cease and desist immediately as soon as you start. Like, you're excited about a name and it's like, no, that's already taken. Think of something else. So we had a list of names that we liked, and we spent 3 hours because everything we had was either taken or too close. And so we spent 3 hours trying to think of new things. Couldn't think of anything. I was like, okay, I'm pushing away from the computer. We had an IPA on tap down at our old house at our bar in our basement that I had brewed. So I'm like, I'm going to have a beer and just take a breath. And so I was sipping on that, and on our bar was a little Kansas City Royals gnome that they had a giveaway when they hosted the All-Star game back in, I think, 2012. My brother was able to go, and that was one of the door prizes. So he gave us one. So sitting there drinking a hoppy beer, looking at the gnome. Gnomes are known for drinking in folklore. How about hopping gnome? So I ran up the stairs and I go, how about hopping gnome? And she...
How fast did you run upstairs? We were like cheering. I go, oh my gosh,
I was like,
it.
this is got to be it. And ran up, told Stacy, and she goes, it's a little kitschy. And I was like, well, I was a little upset, but also I was like, I'm going to type it into the website and we're going to see. And typed it in. There was nothing close.
Yeah.
And paid our $20 and reserved the name. And it's like, we've got a name, and it was, and my response was, we've spent 3 hours and we haven't thought of anything.
Yeah. Start somewhere. Get the domain, get the Twitter handle, get the...
I'm shocked. Knowing that Stacy's like the marketing person and you're always like rocking out the gnome stuff, I would have thought that she came up with it.
No, I had to be convinced, and honestly, I still wasn't convinced when we first started. I mean, it was coming along where, of course, our smartphones at the time, I don't even know, but like we would get like a picture of a beer glass next to a gnome, and it was like, okay. And then, but once we got the logo was when I was sold. Chris Parks, local graphic designer, freelancing at the time, and he pretty much just came up with that was like the only, maybe a couple options, but that was pretty much it, with the gnome jumping over the barrel. And it kind of reminded us of like an old like video game.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm sold. And then from there, we didn't get into the gnome puns at first, but we started doing that quickly after. And then I got really into it. But yeah, it took a while. I was like, that little giveaway from the Royals game was our only gnome. We're not gnome people.
Yeah.
We don't.
But then, because we knew we wanted something fun, and breweries always have fun names, and Wichita Brewing was already here. River City Brewing was already here. So we didn't want anything to do with Wichita necessarily. We did the ICT IPA, which is surprising that nobody already had an ICT IPA.
Yeah,
but,
that was,
we have Wichita themed beers, but we wanted to name it something that just stood out more.
Yeah.
And so that's how Hopping Gnome Brewing Company was born. And nobody called it the Gnome yet. We did not. This is always a fun story to tell, where we weren't the ones that started calling it the Gnome. It was the guests that would come in. Most breweries go by their acronym. So you have like WBC's, Wichita Brewing.
CSB.
CSB. Yeah. So we were like HGBC, because Hopping Gnome's a lot to say. Yeah. So we're like HGBC, and we kept saying HGBC, and it just wasn't really catching on, because I think people liked saying Hopping Gnome, and it was like kind of cute. And then one day there was a gal sitting at the bar, and she was on her phone. I think it was shortly after we opened, like a Tuesday afternoon or something, and was like, yeah, meet me. I'm already here. I'm at the Gnome. And we were like, I think I was like doing dishes and like looked over at him and was like, that's what they're calling it. They're calling it the Gnome.
Do you remember who that was?
So I don't remember who it was.
I don't remember who it was.
I wish I would have. I don't know if they remember. I've told the story a few times. Hopefully somebody will come up someday and be like, it was me. Yeah. But then everybody started calling it the Gnome. And we've met there's been other breweries and like brew pubs and stuff around. It's not Hopping Gnome, but they're called the Dancing Gnome, or there's a Grateful Gnome. We've done a collab with them in Denver. And their customers all call it the Gnome as well.
Yeah.
So it must just be a thing. So that's how that came about, which a lot of people think we probably spearheaded that and we didn't. So I think that's kind of fun.
Do you remember what names were considered beforehand that got nixed?
High five. We want to be high.
Yeah.
We like to high. He's a big high fiver. So if you've never gotten a high five from Tory Latin,
Okay. Is it a hard high five? Like, is it pretty solid? Like,
It can be.
okay.
I'm a pretty good judge of like if you just put your hand up and you're already recoiling back,
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm not gonna.
but there was already like a high five brewing somewhere on the East Coast, and at that time the mustache. Remember the mustache
Yeah.
craze when everything was mustaches, and so I was like, let's do something. His beard wasn't quite what it is today, but it was there, and I was like, maybe we do something with like the beard, and you couldn't believe like how many home brewers or already had the domain, or like other breweries were like Captain Redbeard. Like it's like everything was taken.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there was a few others, but we just were kind of needed to take a break and out of ideas, and then that came about. So I'm glad we went with it, because it's definitely be really different he said if we had to, what would you name it now? If you had to name a brewery now.
Oh, not too bad. Oh, that's not too bad. Thank you. I guess that's
It's
not too bad.
It's
Can
kind
you
of a
imagine?
compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
I
it?
mean,
Is
it's-
it?
Yeah. I mean,
Is it?
it's not too bad. But you get those people that go to beer fest and they're not really craft beer
yeah,
drinkers.
that's me. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh yeah, I'll take that. And they're like, drink it. And they're like, oh, it's not too bad. It's like,
You're like,
I think-
thanks.
Thank
they
you.
don't know that they don't know that he's a brewer either, obviously. But yeah, you're like,
Well,
they say that
it's
like,
just-
oh, it's not so bad, and you're like,
if you're unfamiliar with something, like you don't do a lot of it. To me, it's like if you say it's not too bad, I'm like it's probably pretty good. To me, it's the same.
yeah.
But if you're using it to describe like a person, like, oh, how'd that person go? Like, did you like them? He's not too bad.
not too bad.
Like,
It's like,
yeah.
Yeah, there has come a point where there's just so many names and just so many breweries now that a few years ago, shout out to our friends in Tulsa, they opened Nothing's Left because they were like having a conversation.
They were going through the same thing we did
Yeah.
naming our business.
Yeah.
And they had like a group text, and they're like, I don't know. They're like, oh my God, this is already taken. And they're like, there's nothing left. And then that's
and
what
they're
they call
like,
it.
oh, well, that's what we'll call
Are
it.
there
And-
statistics on the growth of breweries over the last 10 years?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, when we, when we came up, we were at the, right when it was starting to swing up. And so we kind of used that, as a sales pitch, to banks and lending organizations like, hey, again, like I said earlier, Midwest is behind. We can get under this thing and, ride the wave. And yeah, I mean, in 2016, 17, 18, I mean, it was rocketing. There were so many breweries opening up. The thing with it was they were small like us, like what we have in Wichita. They weren't large production. And there was a real big shift in, I guess, the brewing industry, because you had the big ones, New Belgium, Boulevard, Odell, all of these large breweries. But then it was all the small guys coming in, and like you can only get their beer if you go to that location. Like we were never wanted to do mass distribution. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It just wasn't our view for our business. And it was like, well, we want to keep it small. We want people to come in because we want that community aspect of it. Like we want people to come in and sit at the bar and crosstalk at the bar. And we've had we talk about it a lot, is people sit on the corners or whatever, and they're new in town, or they're in town for a couple days for a conference or flight safety training or something. And they're like, well, what's there to do in Wichita? And somebody would go, oh, have you seen our zoo? Have you been to Botanica? And
Or like, what's all the
Yeah.
other breweries
Yeah.
in town?
yeah, our bartenders are very good at it. They have a running list of everything and, of everything that's going on either that week or that month, or just attractions that Wichita has that they might not know about. And we've had people that come in and they're like, where can I go to see live music? And it's like on a Tuesday, and we're like, go down the street to Mort's.
Yeah.
They have music
Yeah.
every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, here's a list basically. Yeah. We always joke with our friends that visit, we're all Visit Wichita partners. And it's like, you should like pay us, our bartenders to like be your guides. But yeah, talking about the distribution, I mean, as craft breweries grew, it was more about, having a craft brewery in your neighborhood, having, something close to you. Doesn't mean you don't go to the bigger ones, but then it gets even harder for like liquor stores to do that. It's like, if you're, why would, like, we're trying to sell to Kansas City when they have a lot of other local beer in Kansas City, why would they be interested in us? So it just kind of got harder as the years went on, and that just wasn't something we were, maybe at first we thought, oh, maybe down the road, but it wasn't something that we were really interested in. And we've seen that, like you said, that shift of, it is really, talk about buy local. And that was the other thing that was really happening when we opened in 2015, is like that buy local movement. Whereas now, the younger generation coming up is like, they buy local a lot, they've grown up with that. So it's really neat to see that, but that wasn't the case at the time. But now it's like, oh yeah, we really can get like super local, super concentrated into just our town, our neighborhood. And, we were the third brewery to open in 2015, and we, the first tap room in Wichita, and now there's 9?
Yeah.
10. I mean, if you can, there's, obviously the outlying areas as well. So, and then the number of breweries in Kansas has just really grown a lot over the past.
Yeah. So you see it
6 to 8
in all
years.
these small towns around in the area. They're popping up, and they might have a small kitchen in there, but I mean, everybody from around comes in and has a beer when they get off of work. And so it's really cool to see, because I think when we started, I mean, there was maybe 20 in the state, probably less, and now it's just almost double that, and it's fantastic.
At least, yeah.
Can people find your beers at like other restaurants?
Yes, so we do distribute through House of Schwan, so they come by every week and pick up kegs. We mainly do Wichita, maybe a little bit outside of Wichita, but we really focus on Wichita as our kind of our distribution.
At what point were you able to scale to be able to serve at other restaurants besides just the tap room?
So yeah, the first year we opened up with our brewing equipment, we had 6 fermenters, so I was able to do and a couple bright beer tanks, so we could do about 6 to 8 beers. But when you're brand new, everybody wants to come in and try it, and you go through a lot of product. And so after the first year, we ended up buying 2 more tanks, I think it was 2 more fermenters, because we just needed more beer. And then year 3, we added 3 in, and until we got to 11. 11 fermenters, which is where we're at now, and we're able to maintain. But really, after the second year, we were able to distribute a lot more, which is great to get our name out there. And I don't know if you've seen our tap handle, but it looks exactly like the logo. So it's very.
That's why I asked, because I've seen it at other places, and it's pretty cool. It's one of the more recognizable ones.
Yes,
yeah.
And again, working with people who are local, that was Van Chase, who primarily does shift knobs. They have moved to Missouri now, but we still order our tap handles through Josh. And we sat down and had the logo, and we're like, well, what do you think? And he came back with some drawings, some renderings of it, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. He's like, we can do a double-sided, where you can just slide in whatever beer it is for the label. That way, it doesn't matter where the bar is at. So if it's in the back, you can see it, or if it's up front on the bar, you'll still see it. So it's double-sided, which was a great idea. It was like, oh yeah, that's perfect.
So what was it like going from being a home brewer to like having a full system? Was it like culture shock?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I tell everybody that it wasn't linear. It's not like, you're making 5-10 gallons. Okay, well, now I'm making 155 gallons, so I just scale it up. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Equipment is a big part of it. Temperature loss, volume loss, just general brew house efficiency things that go into it. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty steep learning curve. We did several test batches to figure out, okay, where we're losing temperature, where we're losing, product, things like that. We brewed probably 2 or 3 beers from start to finish before we actually brewed a production beer, just so we could figure everything out. So, yeah.
Are you getting pretty involved with the brewing now, Stacy?
I'm not involved with the brewing. I could give a tour
Yeah.
if I needed to. Usually I try to get make sure Tori's there to do that, but especially if they're home brewers and they already know what they're talking about. But I can give kind of I get the gist of it, and he has kind of a printout that's in our handbook for all our employees, and information about like the size of the brew system and kind of what happens during brewing. So that way they can speak to it, kind of a cheat sheet, if you will. Yeah. So that's something I never really got, but I definitely would get in there and bug him and get a lot of content from the brewing. So that's been fun. And the other thing we didn't mention is part of the hard part about getting started wasn't only about the funding. It was a lot of like, when you're doing anything with alcohol in the state of Kansas, or really anywhere, I'm sure, it's a lot of like red tape, and there's different levels. You have to get a federal liquor license and a state and in the city. And so we actually got a lot of help from Walnut River. And El Dorado was just getting started, and so they were kind of going through the process. Wichita Brewing helped us with kind of going over our business plan. So, we were working with other breweries, before we even got started, which they really helped us to get going.
Yeah, that was huge. Yeah, because that was when Walnut River was still in the back of the flea market, where their building is now. They were in the very back, and we went with a couple friends that had been out there a couple times, and we were sampling their beer and getting growlers filled. And Stacy's like, tell them
our idea.
And I was like, hey, introduced myself. And, I don't know if you've met BJ Hunt, and Rick was there, and BJ, well, when we first walked in, he goes, now that's a Warbeard. And so, that kind of broke the ice, and we're like, oh yeah, well, we're kind of thinking of, and he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of somebody thinking about doing that. And so we kind of told him our idea and where we were going, and he goes, well, we were asking him for advice. I mean, he didn't know us from anybody, but they're both such nice guys.
Mm-hmm. And everybody was just so great.
Oh yeah, everybody was great. And he was like, well, let me give you a rundown. You need to do ABC before you do XYZ. And it was like, oh, because I had no idea. And he was like, yep, you got to do this before you do this, before you do this, talk to this person before you do any of this. And it was like, got a game plan together before we really got into it. And then, just sending random emails and phone calls to the void, basically. So, BJ was huge.
And then
huge
getting
help.
brew help, help with brewing over the years. Tori didn't know how to brew a sour, and I was like, we should probably brew a sour. Yeah. Which is now our top selling beer.
Now it's our top seller.
That's why it's called the HVIC after me. But one of the brewers that was at River City at the time helped Tori with that. And
Ryan Kerner. Mm-hmm. I contacted, we've been friends for years, and it was like, hey, we're thinking about making a sour. And he's like, oh, awesome. I was like, can you help me? He goes, yeah. Can you meet this afternoon? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So, sat down, made up a recipe, went over all the steps and how things work in a sour, and it was great. Just worked it out over a couple beers, and it was awesome.
And I think the brewing communities everywhere are like in general that way, but it's not like that everywhere. We visited breweries, like we just always thought everybody was that way. I mean, maybe not like Colorado or places where there's just like a ton of breweries, and there's big ones and small ones, and but there's, smaller communities kind of like Wichita that just have a handful of breweries, and they have told us, they're like, oh, we wish it was like you guys in Wichita, and like you guys hang out, like we actually hang out, and
we go to each other's places, we hang out after beer festivals and before beer festivals, and
it's like if you have
go to each other's anniversary parties and special events and all that stuff, and collaborate.
How many breweries do you think you guys have been to?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Triple digits?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Quadruple digits?
No.
I wish. Yeah.
Because I know you guys, like, remember the old location, you guys had like those stickers. Were those all changed by you guys, or?
We wish.
Yeah.
No, what we always tell people when they go visit breweries, because that's a common thing to do when you're going out of town somewhere, like, I'm going to visit the local breweries. And sometimes you can ask them first. This is kind of a pro tip. You can ask them for a sticker, and sometimes they sell stickers or give stickers away, but a lot of times they run out of them or they might not have them. But if you offer our brewery sticker and be like, I have a trade, sometimes they open up their secret, like, oh, okay, so whenever we always tell all of our regulars and our Mug Club members and everybody, like, oh, you're getting ready to go somewhere, like, let us know and we'll give you some stickers and you can put them around and take them around. And so that was between a lot of our customers and a lot of our staff. And then we've grown now. We have a much bigger cooler and it's already getting full. So we started over at the new space, which is kind of neat.
So speaking of the new space, what year did that open up?
So we've been open a year.
Yeah, a little over a year now.
We opened May of 2023. So
how exciting was that?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, kind of, when we opened the original spot, it was like, well, we don't know how busy we're going to be. Because, again, it was like a new concept.
Yeah.
And after a couple of years, it's like, okay, we're real busy here. And we were able to buy the building. And with that building came a plot of land behind it. And so we were like, well, maybe we'll sell it or maybe we'll do something on it. But then 2020 came around and COVID, and tight and cozy wasn't a fun thing to do anymore.
When was the announcement that you guys had the location coming?
So we announced that on our
our seventh anniversary in 2022. So it was about a year later when we opened. So we started planning. We actually started looking in like early 2020 at, okay, we're just getting too big and or we're just growing, we're growing and our space isn't big enough to accommodate everyone. And it'd be nice to have, a lot of people were sitting on patios and there were more like beer gardens around. And we're like, it'd be nice to have some outdoor space and just to spread out a little bit. And we were like, well, maybe we should move or open a second location. We just weren't sure. And luckily we didn't do anything too drastic in 2020, but that gave us time. The pandemic, we were able to like still do to-go beer. We were lucky we didn't have to completely shut down, but it wasn't so bad to just kind of take a break and be able to work on a plan where we decided to build on that lot. And Tori, with his AutoCAD experience, started drawing up plans of like it sounded crazy, but it's like we could just build the tap room we want. And so we kind of already had plans together, and we met with our team, and they said how should we do the bar, and what do we basically learned over the last 7 years of what we should have done or could have done. Yeah. We knew we wanted a covered patio. You don't see that a lot with like fans and just it's hot in Kansas in the summer. We wanted the turf. We know the AstroTurf's a big deal at a lot of places where you can play cornhole and games. And then the biggest thing was we wanted our gates to open up where the food trucks could pull onto the property and plug in, where they wouldn't have to run their generators. And that's something we had seen at other breweries and other places. So we're like, yeah, we definitely want to do that. So, and then the team really helped us like, oh no, we should do it like this, but the sink should be here. And just knowing that we were like doubling our bar space, that we wanted their input on, they mentioned skylights. We should have skylights so we can have more plants, because our taproom manager she's kind of our plant lady. So we didn't have a lot of room for plants at the old space. So just things to make it more aesthetically pleasing and but we still wanted to have that original Gnome vibe, but like how could we make it brighter and make it bigger? And so we ended up the tap room itself is double the size of the original tap room. And then actually we always tell people the covered patio is larger than the original tap room.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so that's kind of puts into perspective. So with the outdoor seating and everything, we really quadrupled our size. And so it's been really exciting to be able to have, I've always liked doing events. Breweries do events all the time, whether it's tapping new beers or partnering with other businesses or doing a give back night for nonprofits. And we would just fill up, and people would drive down Douglas and be like, "Oh, it looks too busy in there," and they just wouldn't come in. And and we're like, well, did you come in on a Tuesday? You know, like come on a slower day. But so it was really nice to be able to like have everybody coming in at once. One thing that we're doing now that we weren't able to do before is host groups. So you can come in with your, you know, your office group or, you know, your after work happy hour, and you can bring lots of people in, and there's plenty of space for everyone. You don't have to worry about, you know, we'd have party buses that would contact us and be like, we're having a bachelor party and on a Saturday. And at the old space, we were like, well, good luck. We want, you know, we want you to come in, but it's going to be standing room only. Like we only have so many tables. So, and now we have space for everybody. So that's been really fun too, is just to get more, and it's more family friendly. There's lots more room for kids to run around and have live music and not have to just stuff everybody in the corner like we used to do. So that's been really fun.
I was going to mention that actually, like you guys do quite a bit of events. You know, you look at your Facebook page, hit the events tab, and it's a list of things. I mean, you guys do the first Friday, beer and jazz, trivia, you have food truck days. I know like Argentina's Empanadas has had their watch parties there for their TV show. So there's a lot of things going on at Hopping Gnome, and there's always that, you know, old adage by some people, like nothing goes on in Wichita. But yeah, if they don't, you know, go to Hopping Gnome's Facebook page and you can find something going on there. One thing I want to touch upon, this is something Jen Ray brought up to me a while back on a podcast, Service for a Change.
Yes.
So you guys are very involved in that. For those that don't know, there are about 14 establishments trying to raise around $100,000 to build a habitat house for Habitat for Humanity. Hopping Gnome is one of the 14 people in there. I'll just name off the other ones. You have Bake Sale, Treat Parlor, Central Standard, Homegrown, The Monarch, Mort's, Norton's, Picasso's, Public, River City Brewing, The Artichoke, Belmont, Kitchen, Reverie Roasters, and I can't forget about Una Vida and that whole group. And you guys have an event coming up.
We do. I don't know if are we supposed to give dates on podcast? I don't know.
You can go ahead. This will be out. This will be out on Monday, August 12th.
Oh,
so
perfect.
It's coming up.
Yeah, so we're actually so this Service for Change, how it kind of all started, and I know Jen probably told the whole story, but I got a phone call from Jen in January, and it was rare that she was calling me, so I thought she was calling about like, you know, we always have our HBIC on tap at the Monarch. I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with the beer. Why is she calling me? So, and it was like, oh, this is, you know, she's like, I had this idea, let's have drinks. And it was like, so I had drinks with Jen and with Brooke from Public. And we just started talking, she started talking about how, you know, we all want to give back, and we all want to like do as much as we can do in our community, but you can only do so much. And it's like, we'll have give back nights where it's like a little bit of money here. You are donating merchandise for raffles. And yeah, some of that's good to like spread the word about your business. But at the end of the day, it's like, she's like, are we even making a difference? And then that's when, you know, the whole story where she asked Danielle at Habitat, like, how much is it to build a house? And she said $100,000. She said, okay, well, we're gonna, you know, so she started researching it, and there are different groups that it is a thing, like a lot of breweries do. It's called the House That Beer Built. So she kind of went off of that, modeled, and is like, obviously want to get restaurants and coffee shops and, you know, whoever we can get in the kind of the service industry involved. Came up with a Service for Change name, and then we all just kind of got started. So it actually started in April, but our kickoff event, we had some other nonprofit events already planned for the year, because how we normally would do things is we would get with our team and we'd vote on different causes and nonprofits that we really want to support for the year, and we would do like quarterly give back nights and keep the glass and stuff like that. So we already had things planned. So we are gearing up to what we're going to do is brew a collaboration beer. So talk about that collaboration, get everybody involved with Service for Change, come in and brew the beer, and, you know, take the pictures, and Habitat for Humanity there. And we're going to make a special beer just for our kickoff event. And that event will be September 13th. It's a Friday the 13th. And that's going to be tapping the beer. And then just so the sales of that beer will all go to Service for Change fundraiser, and then just like a percentage of all sales, which we always like to say that, because sometimes people want to support something and they're like, well, I don't drink beer, or I don't like that kind of beer, or what. And it's like, no, you can buy a hat or a gift card for somebody or something, just come in and support that. So we'll be doing, and I think most of the other businesses involved are doing, you know, obviously multiple events, because we've got a lot of money to raise. This is more money than we've raised for a for just a single nonprofit in a long time, so or ever for us really. So we'll be doing several events. So you'll see that Service for Change logo when you go out to different places, and you see when there's events coming up, and the Habitat for Humanity has a Service for Change page on their website, so you can learn about it there. But yeah, we're looking to get some news coverage and some things. I think we're all just kind of constantly getting out there and talking about it, and you'll see a lot more fun events. But yeah, we're kicking it off September 13th. Well,
I just launched an online talk show, so perhaps you can hop on, be a guest, and spread that out, because I think it's super admirable. I go to a lot of charity events, and you see like restaurants giving gift cards at these silent auctions, and say there's like $100 gift card being donated. Sometimes don't even go for $100; they'll go for like 80 or 70. So like there's no like full impact of what that gift card could have been. So to do something like this on a large scale, I mean, you can see the impact. It's more tangible, so to speak, and it's awesome. I mean, I remember when Jen told me about that, I was like, that's so cool, because I know restaurants and bars and breweries, they get hit up nonstop for donations, and now you can say, hey, this is what we're doing if you'd like to help, for our cause.
Yeah, and the plan is it's going to be a Hefeweizen style, which is kind of good for that time of year. And we're calling it Gnome Sweet Gnome because, of course, we did a gnome pun. And it will should be seeing it on tap at some of the other participating businesses as well. So we're going to be, we'll kick it off, but then we want everybody else to be able to have that too. So it should be fun. Yeah, we have a lot of fun ideas for different types of events that we can be doing throughout the year.
So outside of the brewery, what do you guys do for fun?
Me? Golf.
Oh, you're a golfer.
I try. Yeah. That's my hobby is golf.
Favorite course in town?
I'm a member of the municipal courts or the courts, the golf courses.
So am I, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's
favorite
a great
one?
It's a great deal.
What one do you play the most?
I would say probably Tex is my favorite.
That's
Tex
my favorite.
Consolver.
Yeah.
Since they shout out to them. Unfortunately, they had like 75% of their fairways go to winter kill, and they reseeded and sprigged and everything, and it looks amazing out there now.
Yeah, Steve Blasky and the team out there are excellent.
Yeah, they did a great job, and just I guess shout out to all Wichita golf.
Yeah.
They redid all the pro shops and
new golf carts
and drink carts, and during going back to the worst time ever, COVID, that was literally the only thing you could do.
Yeah,
was golf,
but
and they actually
hit the pin.
Yeah, and so they were able to actually get in the black and make some money, and then they turned it right around and reinvested into the courses, which was amazing.
Yeah, last year, 2023, they had a record turnout for golf, so that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
What's your handicap? Do you know?
I think 11, 12.
Oh, you're too good. I can't play with you.
Well, depends on the day.
Well, I do not play golf, but I do yoga. I like to exercise and run and walk the dog and read books and things like that. So we don't have a lot of spare time. We've been getting more spare time as time has gone on. So we have a great team, and we can get away a little bit more. So yeah, so that's been good.
I got to hear that real quick. What do you guys go out to eat for fun? Like favorite restaurants, common places that are in your rotation?
I knew you were going to ask that.
I have to. Yeah.
We're like
I'm always interested.
All of the places. Regular rotation. I mean, we live really close to the Gnome. We live in the East Front neighborhood, so we're right by East High. So we're always Clifton Square area. We love Ziggy's and Dempsey's and all that stuff. We go, everywhere
Belmont.
East. Yeah, Belmont.
Have you been to Larcher's?
Yes.
Been to best breakfast sandwich.
So good.
I think everybody says that.
Yeah.
We go to Redbird and some of the newer places that have been coming out east, and then of course everything downtown, Public, Anchor, the Monarch, all kind of the usual spots. We try to do local as much as possible, and we always let like we said, we always let people know where to go, and we never want people to think when they come to Wichita to visit that they just have chain restaurants. So
yeah, I think one of our favorite ones right now, or at least more recent one we've gone to is Lottie.
That's an awesome place.
We've been friends with Josh and Andrea Rathbun for probably 9 years now. I mean, we met at a beer dinner when he was executive chef at Siena Tuscan.
Okay.
And they threw on a beer dinner with a bunch of the breweries, and that's how we met him. And we've done several beer dinners with him and collaborations. And I mean, it's incredible what he's doing over there.
I'm gonna start asking like that question, like what restaurants are in your rotation? Because when I ask what your favorite restaurant is, people kind of get stumped. But if you ask what's in your rotation, they know like where they go to the more often. So, yoga. Do you like? Is there a certain place to do yoga at, or?
Yeah, well, I've been going to Hot Asana for years and started going to Limitless Yoga recently because we do beer and yoga events where they come out on the beer garden, and they're just down the street on Waterman and Patty, so nice and close. I've been
You do
going
the
there
hot
lately.
yoga?
Yeah,
I did it one time. I went with a friend, and I remember I was like going to the bathroom real quick, and I noticed like, man, my leg's kind of dry. So I saw some lotion. So like, I'm gonna put some lotion on my legs real quick. So I put lotion on both legs, not even think about anything. So then we get into the room, we're doing hot yoga, and like we're doing all these like positions where you have to get on your legs and put them on your elbows, and my legs just slipping. It was hell, and I couldn't do anything. It was, and then I look over, and like I had like some lotion residue, and somebody looks at me and was like, "Did you put lotion on your legs?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they go, "Yeah, you should not be doing that."
yeah. Like big mistake.
Yeah.
So, looking back in the last 9 years, are there things you would have done differently from the very start? Besides changing the name to High Five or anything.
I would definitely stick with Hopping Gnome. I mean, it would have been nice to just have the bigger space and plan for that. But I mean, sometimes you have to.
That's hard too, especially when you're first starting. And
we always tell people it's good to start small. I think sometimes businesses try to start too big, and then that's where problems happen. So I don't know if we necessarily would change that.
Yeah, going back to that point, it was like everything that we kind of looked at and built our business after, they all started small. So it was like one of our favorite places in Denver is Jagged Mountain. They're still in the same location. They've got a great spot, but they're relatively small. And then you look around. It's like, okay, Wichita Brewing started out on the west side as a brew pub and restaurant, and then they were small, and then they built their second location, which is much larger now. Same thing with Walnut River. They started, again, in the back of a flea market, just selling growlers and giving samples, and then they eventually became as big as they are now. I think, the big thing is you just have to build a following. Have to just build that following, and if it just keeps going, then you're able to expand as needed. But I think just starting out going gangbusters and going, wow, everybody's going to come in here. It's like, that might be.
But we weren't
difficult.
really. I think he asked if there's something we'd change. I think we weren't really prepared. We only had like 4 or 5 beers on tap when we first opened.
Yeah.
We weren't prepared at all for as many people came in, and then the second or third week we were open, we had like 2 beers on tap.
Yeah.
Because it was
Which
just
one's this?
constantly
Which one am I drinking right now?
Guava Mango HBIC.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's really good.
So I don't know.
Like, yeah,
Anything
that's
else you would change?
Do you like being in the social media videos?
I do.
He actually has a lot of ideas for social media.
Yeah.
So Charisse, our taproom manager, handles all the social media now. I mean, I still dabble in like when it was time. She had like a plan for like last week, and I was like, "It's Olympics, so you need to do these Olympics things." She's like, "Oh yeah, we'll do that." So
You guys are
I
really
still
good at
dabble,
social.
but yeah,
I'll
thank
say
you.
this. Like compared to a lot of like,
that's
local
all
restaurants
her.
and businesses, you guys really excel well at that.
We have a lot of fun with it, and he always has really good ideas. You wouldn't think that, and a lot of brewers probably don't like that,
Yeah.
but he has a lot of ideas and is always game. And most of our staff are, we try to give them a heads up so they're like ready if they're going to be in videos. But yeah, we really try to it's such a fun business.
Yeah.
And it's easy. And it's like, you don't have to post every day, but we just like to, because we usually have something going on all the time, and we just want people, we always want to be top of mind. So yeah, still have a lot of fun with that. For sure.
I think it shows a lot of character, just like how fun it is. Because I mean, when I see Tori, just a guy with this big old beard. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he intimidating? Is he going to be like,
Not at all.
yeah. And then you get to know you, and it's like, oh, he's not what you expected. And
No.
yeah.
Well, and we appreciate you and, and others like you coming in and promoting us, and you have a bigger reach, and for all the on behalf of like all of the businesses, because that just helps so much, for everything we do. And that's just, we just really appreciate
You're
that.
giving us stuff to write about and, go visit, make content for. So it's all part of the fun. What events have you guys been a part of that stuck out to you? You're like, man, that was just so much fun. Like, we want to do that again. Because I feel like breweries are at a lot of events.
Yeah. I mean,
there aren't as many. There used to be, that used to be, and I think part of that was now that there's more breweries everywhere.
Yeah.
It used to be, you had to go to a beer fest to try craft beer from your region. And we don't see those big beer fests as much because a lot of people are like, well, I already go to those breweries. So, shout out to Cody Sherwood from head brewer at Wichita Brewing Company. He gets everybody together and gets breweries from like all over the United States, like New York and all kinds of like the South, like everywhere, and to do the beer fest every year in January. And that's one of our favorite events because we get to bring people and they get and shows them how awesome our brewing community is, how awesome our small business community is. And that's really neat. And then the locals really like going because, we're all there, but there's breweries from other states that they'll probably never get to try again.
Right.
So that's been a recent one. We always loved the Chili Fest, and Johnson's Garden Center is no longer. They did that for 10 years, and that was probably all of our favorite event, as hot as it was.
Yeah.
So they did that for 10 years, and they're kind of going a different direction, and that's, cool. Sometimes you want to get out while you're ahead.
But yeah, I mean, when they told us they weren't doing it, we were bummed about it, but then you step back and you think about it. I don't know if you ever went.
Ironhead one?
Ironhead.
Yep.
And it's like, man, they had to move all of those plants.
Yeah.
Like it was like days of work.
There's a lot of work for them.
Just for that one event. And I was like, I totally get it. Cause I mean,
it
was a lot of work, but I mean,
time to try something new.
They did it great. I mean, that's the first beer festival we ever did, us and CSB, because we weren't even breweries yet. Mm-hmm. We were still in the planning stages of it. And they were like, hey, do you want to come out and
have homebrew,
serve your homebrew? Because we know you're going to be a brewery here. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. And that was the first year they did it that way. And they were like, and we're like, well, how much should we bring? And they're like, 5 gallons ought to be enough. And we're like, okay, well, they advertise it as like free beer or whatever. And so we went through 5 gallons. I mean, we were given maybe an ounce or 2 ounces to everybody because we were like, we're going to run out. They had lines. I mean, advertised.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done like a national festival?
We've entered beer into Great American Beer Fest. And,
the one in Colorado?
Yep. And the World Beer Cup and stuff like that. But we've never actually poured.
But we do have a silver medal. I know he wasn't going to say it. We do have a silver medal from the Great American Beer Festival for our CPA Amber. So Tori doesn't usually tell people that, but I still think it's pretty big. That was back in 2018.
No, it's still pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, there's so many more breweries now. It's getting tougher, but we do that. We got to go to Boulevardia this last summer, which is, or I guess this summer, which is a big, I wouldn't say national, but definitely regional. I guess that kind of was a national festival, but it's Boulevard's big festival that they do every year in Boulevardia is like their nonprofit. So the ticket sales goes to area nonprofits in the Kansas City area. And this year they focused all on like Kansas and Missouri breweries. So we got to see a lot of friends and meet a lot of friends. And they also have live music. And so that was a really fun experience too. We definitely would go back.
Oh yeah. It was a great time.
So favorite events in Wichita that you're not a part of, that you just go as an attendee?
We always do. Well, into golf. I don't know that I'm into golf, but I do like to go to like the Wichita Open.
It's a fun time.
And some of those
17th hole.
Yeah. Those are, and I love like the networking and just seeing everybody, and it's so much fun. And those are the type of events where we probably won't have our beer on just because it's just the volume and everybody just wants something really light and it's so hot. So that might not have, maybe it'll happen someday, but we got the Caddy Kolsch and the 3-putt Pilsner.
Yeah.
But, and like when Surge games, we love to go to baseball games. And sometimes we can be on tap. They have local taps on, but it might not always be, when you have a different type of business that it's all about the volume. And, it's not super small and focused on the craft, the craft side of things. So that's another one where, we'll support either way. If we can get on at some of those things, we will. But if not, we just love to participate as a member of the community.
Yeah.
Do you guys do any other events, like not from a Hoppy Gnome perspective, but just from a Latin family, like Riverfest, the fair?
Oh yeah.
And we usually are on at Riverfest usually, which is nice.
They usually have a couple tap trailers with all the local guys on it, so that's good to see. They started doing that several years ago.
We like live music. We're usually on tap at Wave, but again, even if we're not, we love to support all the local music venues.
Did you guys go to Elsewhere Fest?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was awesome.
That was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was really neat.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe when they put that lineup out. It's like Steve Aoki.
Yeah.
And Killer Mike. It's like how were you able to pull both of those guys?
Were you able to go to catch them both?
We did. We started at Steve Aoki and then moved over to Killer Mike.
I hated to leave, but it was super fun. So we try to do and especially when there's new initiatives like that. Like we want to show, and we get our staff involved too. I will say the first couple of years we were open. We still have a small staff, but we had very small staff, and we missed. One regret we have, we missed the Roots at Riverfest because we decided to work so that our staff could go. And I think like CSB closed or something. We're like, why didn't we just close?
Yeah. Because nobody came in and we're like, man, we could have just, it was like our first year we were open.
We could have shut down at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, even probably, and still have gotten. So that's one regret we have is like, God, we'll never get to see the Roots again. But we would try to do that a lot where we want to make sure our staff can go out and do things too. And they're not, since they always work on the weekends. So we always talk about that. I'm a board member of the Tallgrass Film Association. So Tallgrass Film Festival in the fall is always a big thing with both of us. We love to do that and get involved.
It's one of those.
I had Melanie on the podcast a while back, and she's like, "You have to go." I'm like, "I'm going to stop by this year." So
that's one of the things. We started going probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And the first time we went, we were like, "Why haven't we been doing this for years?"
Yeah, it's gem.
So cool because, you get to meet some of the actors are there, the producers, the directors.
Yeah,
these
from
people,
all over the world.
Yeah, they come in, and it was like, the first time we saw it, we got a couple passes or something, and we went on a Saturday and Sunday, and it was like, wow, they do this for 4 days. It's like,
all day.
Yeah. So the next year, I'm Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I didn't work those days, and I went to Tallgrass, and then we got involved with it, doing beer in the VIP lounge and things like that. And like Stacy said, she's on the board now, but it's so cool. And we've met quite a few filmmakers, and we follow them on, all the social media and stuff. And it's cool to see what they've been doing over the years.
Yeah. And I think they're always impressed with, how great Wichita is. Again, a lot of people they probably don't, their expectations are probably pretty low. And they go to film festivals everywhere, of course, but that we give them a really warm welcome. Tallgrass has, I think, the best volunteers that are just passionate about it. And we get a lot of local businesses involved for food and drinks. The parties are fun. I always recommend the Tall Pass so you can do all the things. But what's really cool now is since the pandemic, now there's options to do virtual. You can watch at home. So if it's too overwhelming, or I know a lot of my friends are my kids have soccer game, it's in the fall, everyone's busy, and sometimes it's overwhelming to commit. So if you just go to one film on a date night or a couple, or you do a kind of a Sunday fun day and go on a Sunday, or you do a couple things out with all the people, and then you have a list of because I think it's for a few weeks or a month you can watch them.
Yeah, and then
you watch them at home. And it's just really cool.
We always sit down, the week before, be like, okay, what movies are we going to see? And it's inevitable that they're going to overlap. Mm-hmm. So that's a great option is okay, well, I can watch it at home because I missed it. So we can go back and we can watch the movies that we weren't able to watch that we wanted to see during the festival.
So I always recommend that option. Obviously, we want to get people to the festival, but if you don't have to do all the things all the time. And I think that's where Wichita gets really like, as we start to have more, we've seen this past couple of years, like starting to have a lot more events and talk about nothing to do. There's so much to do. And I think Wichita gets overwhelmed where they just don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Or, talking about your regular, where are you going out to dinner and drinking and doing things like in your regular rotation? People get so in their routine that they're not like, we still haven't tried this new place. It's like, you've got to be able to like get out and do those things. So sometimes it can be, things like that can be overwhelming, but there's ways to do it that fits you. And there's lots of different categories and shorts and fun things. So yeah, highly recommend.
I got 2 questions left. One, Stacy, you seem to be very involved in the community. I feel like anytime I see like a board or like pictures at events, you're like front and center, or you're involved somehow in some capacity. Like, what else are you involved in?
Well, I obviously have a passion for nonprofit. That's what my background is in. So this past year I went off the board, but I was on the Dress for Success, the Wichita, the women's. It's called the Women's Network now. Yep. It's a conglomeration of, I got to be a part of the board when that happened, which was really awesome, where Just for Success kind of went under the umbrella of the Women's Initiative Network, and now they can provide more services, get more funding. I think we see a lot of nonprofits in this community, and I'm sure any community, that there's like duplicating services. There's just so many nonprofits like fighting for the same money. So that was really fun to be able to be a part of that. So I've been on several boards like that. And then when we were the Douglas Design District, where Hopping Gnome is located, I had been president of that board, and that hasn't been as active since COVID, but that was something when Janelle King from the workroom was still there, and just really that's when I really got excited about like all of the collaboration and working with other businesses. That's when we started, we put Reverie Coffee in our coffee stout, and the Donut Hole will put our beer in their donuts and have beer donut days. And, we just do so much collaboration that I think people don't even realize. And that all started with the Douglas Design District and meeting people and getting involved downtown. And, I just try to, I have a master's in organizational leadership. And so I just try to do any like leadership opportunities. So I'm a, alum member of the Thread Women's Leadership Initiative. Shout out to Audra, and stay involved with that. And I think it's just good to get out in different groups, because obviously we have a really fun, really great, kind of hospitality industry.
Yeah.
But that's not my background. Mm-hmm. And so it's not as natural to me. I love it, but I want to be able to get out and still like do other things. And I'm not really sure what's next for me. I kind of miss like working in nonprofit and working in marketing and events and doing things like that. So I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but I get to do Leadership Wichita at the Chamber, which is a big program that's like all year long. So that'll start soon for me. So you get nominated, and it's every year it happens. So it's called Leadership Wichita, and it's just anybody. I mean, in any industry, in any, there's no like age limit or anything like that. I think it's like 30 people that they pick to be a part of it. And so it's basically just all about, you have speakers come in from like Greater Wichita Partnership, and I'm sure the mayor comes and talks, and it's all about like what's happening in Wichita and how can we like, as a group, like help the community improve, and how can we keep getting better and keep growing. And so we get to go on like a ride along with police, and we get to do that, how they do the like principal for a day at the schools, and different, get involved in different aspects that I've never been able to be a part of. So, and then just like getting really close with a different group of people from all different industries and, different things. I'm really excited about that. So that's something new that I'm looking forward to this fall.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question. You cannot give the same answers. So Hopping Gnome's been around for 9 years. Give me your single favorite memory that sticks out. Take your time to.
Do you know yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably the same one.
You go first.
Okay.
I don't know what to think.
So it was the day we opened.
The original location?
The original location. It was just us two, and we had one bartender. No idea what was going to happen. And we were finishing up the last little details. She was actually putting things up on a shelf, glassware, to sell. Just keep trying to get it ready for like the last 30 minutes before we open. And I was in the cooler doing something, and I come out and she's like, they're here. And we look out the window and there was a line of probably 15, 20 people. And we're like, oh, okay, here we go. Well, we'll see what happens tonight. And yeah, that was like that overwhelming excitement and just like,
Like
just-
our
just-
parents were
yeah.
helping us do dishes, and
yeah, because we were just
we were not prepared.
Yeah.
no, we were not prepared. We didn't know what we were wanting to expect.
We did some soft openings, but apparently not like enough. We didn't have, and that's what our first food truck we ever had. Shout out to our friends at Prost, because it was when they had the truck called Let 'em Eat Brats,
Yeah.
and they pulled up, and I was like, I don't know what to expect. I mean, they ran out of food in like the first hour.
Yeah, they were like, well, we
like, I
brought a
don't-
lot. And
I
we're
don't
like,
know.
okay, well, hopefully you sell it. And they came in, they're like, could barely get in the door. And Austin was like waving, and we're like, you guys okay? He goes, yeah, we're out of food. We're leaving. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's
Great.
been an hour, you guys. So yeah, they were one of our staple food trucks because they always came back and they were always the first one. So that was cool.
Yeah, I think my favorite is at the new location. We got the opportunity to do like a startup grind where Tori and I were like talking kind of like on a panel, and kind of just like this, where we got to tell our story. And then so many friends and family came, like people we didn't know were going to come from like out of town. And then a lot of the, just our contacts and business associates and everybody that we see, all the time in the community, were just like, they had not heard this story from us. And they don't, like you said, I'm usually the one out and about, talking to people. Tori's not usually out of the brew house much. So they loved hearing like us have the banter together and, be able to tell the story, and people were just like really like into it. And that was just super fun. And then that we had a series of like kind of soft openings where we invited different groups in. I'm sure you were in one of those for sure. We invited all of the social media influencers and everybody. So that was really cool to be. So I think the startup grind was my favorite night, but all those nights combined were really my best memory of people just cheering us on, coming in, people we hadn't seen in a long time. Just so excited to see the space, just the staff's excitement to like be in the new space and figuring it out. Like, it's still new. I mean, we've only been up a year, and it's still new to a lot of people, but that's something that just, we'll never forget that.
Okay. So to recap, where can they find you? Address?
So we are at 1719 East Victor Street. So
And-
we're just to the north, Hydraulic and Victor.
And socials?
Everything is at Hopping Gnome.
Oh, it's simple. It's very simple.
We got in there early.
Okay. Tori, Stacy, any last words for people listening?
Yeah, if you haven't been into the new space, come in and have a beer with us. It's fun. The way we kind of built it. I know you've been there with the light blue ceiling, kind of gives you the outdoor feel, and the bright furniture and lots of room, and it's just come in and experience. We have 16 beers on tap, so
Yeah, we started where we only had 12 taps at the original space. So yeah, we have 16, and it's not all beer. That's one thing I want to talk about. Definitely staying on trend with like what's going on right now. I mentioned a hard seltzer earlier. That's a great option of something, people want. We always had like boxed wine and stuff, but to have something that's gluten-free, that's just it's just different from beer that we actually make. It really means a lot to people to be able to get that. We also started doing hop water, which is a great non-alcoholic option. So it's literally just like seltzer water with hops, and he'll change out the different hops so you get a little bit different flavor. And we're always like working on fun stuff like that. And so that was big at like dry January. And then again, if you come in with a group and you don't drink, there's options like that. We carry non-alcoholic beer. We carry canned cocktails. We just have lots of options. We have juice boxes for the kids. So while we are very craft beer focused and always will be, we've really expanded what we offer. So I always want to
Make it more
mention
inclusive.
that. Yeah. So, and I always have new events. We have a lot of weekly events like trivia every Thursday. And then we have our, every Wednesday is $5 beers. So great special every week. And we do a lot of monthly events. You mentioned First Friday. We've always supported First Friday artists. And we've been doing these really fun events with, the Hoot Handmade, markets. And so getting local artisans in, and we do it out in the beer garden. So that started this summer, and we'll go through the fall and kind of see, where it goes from there. I'm not sure about the winter, but definitely like a fall, spring, summer. That's been a way to get even more people in and support the arts community. We have live music from time to time. And like you said, everything's we have all of our events on Facebook. It's all over social media. We have everything on our website, including an events calendar.
You have a newsletter?
And we have a newsletter. So join our newsletter. It's on the website. It should pop up right there. And I send about 1 or 2 emails a month just of all the events and beers coming up. We actually update our food truck list weekly. So it's always on the website. It's always up to date. So yeah, we have everything. It shouldn't be hard to find what's going on, but yeah, always new things. And yeah, bring your group in and just come and check it out.
Well, I appreciate you guys hopping on. Real quick question. Have you ever hit a hole in one?
No, still waiting. How about you?
Never.
No. I got close, but
I've been maybe a few feet away, but that's,
Yeah.
nothing worth bragging about.
No. Yeah. Doesn't show up on the scorecard.
Well, once again, I appreciate you guys hopping on. And we'll be seeing you guys again soon.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Cheers.
it.
Yeah. Cheers.